Hello and welcome to the BenCode Swift tutorial series, and today is going to be the Swift tutorial of moving to iOS Part 2. If you haven't seen Part 1 of the moving to iOS, I strongly recommend you watch it because we're going to be picking up where we left off. So, we had the MK map view in the last thing. We're just going to delete that and move on here. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a label. So, delete the MK map view, find the label in here, which is just the sized amount of static text, and we're going to just sort of align this way. So I'm going to type hello world into here by double clicking. You can edit the text, and here we have it. So one thing you're going to notice, if I'm going to run this now just for the sake of running it, and just so you get an idea of what exactly this looks like, this is the iPad simulator. And as you can see, although it's in the center of this box here, it is not in the center of this iPad 2. And that's in the iOS simulator, by the way, which opens when you hit the run button. And you can run any sort of iOS device. As you can see, you can select it here. And so you might say, okay, well, this box isn't the right size for all of the devices. Exactly. And that's the cool thing about iOS now that Swift is involved, is there's a new thing called auto layout. And auto layout allows you to design for multiple orientations and devices at once, which saves so much time from having to do it from device to device. So basically it works this way: as you add what are called constraints to each object. And so you add constraints to each object, and then you can, deal with them that way. So, one of the constraints we're going to add first is we're going to add the center, the horizontal centering container and the vertical centering container. What that means is going to take the horizontal center of this object and align it with the container's horizontal center. And in this case, the container is just the view that it's in. So this is the container. There are other types of containers which we're not going to talk about just yet, and so on. So so one thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the Hello World. And we're going to go to the constraints here, the alignment constraints. We're going to select both of the horizontal center container and the vertical center container and add the constraints. And as you can see, 4 lines get added when you click here, and that basically says, okay, it's a valid, it's valid constraints. And what that means is it's like it doesn't, the system doesn't need anymore to accurately place the accurately place everything. So this basically says it's going to align both the horizontal to the container's horizontal and the vertical to the horizontal vertical center, to the container's vertical center. And that's all we need for this particular label. And I'm going to just increase the text here. As you can see, if I align it here, it's even better. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, hold on one quick sec. Sorry, dealing with these little glitches. So that's sort of all we need. I'm just going to go back here and re-add the constraints. And it should be all set. I'll run the app. And as you can see, Hello World should now be in the center of the screen, and it is, and I can rotate it, and it's still in the center of the screen no matter which way I rotate it to. And if I run the iPhone 5S, which obviously is a completely different layout, you'll be able to see that it also keeps it in the center, regardless of orientation of the device here. See, I can rotate and it's still centered. So that's basically how auto layout works. And now we're going to get into it a little bit more here. So let's say we're going to add a button that's called Change Hello World. So it's going to say, oops, sorry. You know what? I'll keep this here just for the sake of making it easier on you. And I'll put a button up top. And we can change it to be the same size. This Hello World, which is 43. Really quick. Perfect. And we can say change label. And it doesn't matter what exactly we want it to change the label to yet, because we're not going to get into the code just now. And I'm going to actually make it a little bit smaller just for the sake of, you know, design. So change label. So now we got, okay, our hello world is here and it's aligned in the center of the container. So what I'm going to do now is, let's say, okay, I know that I want change label always this far above hello world. You know, I don't care where necessarily it is, but I want it to be this space. So what I can do is I can right click change label or control click if you have a one button mouse and drag that onto the other object that I want to put a constraint between the two with. In this case, the hello world label. And I let go, and as you can see, I've got this object. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say the vertical spacing. And as you can see, this little line here, this blue line, says these two are always going to be spaced together. Before I put that, you might have noticed there would be a orange line above change label indicating that change label, or the button, it doesn't know where to place it vertically on the screen. However, because hello world has a specific vertical component, it will always be in the middle of the screen. Change label also now has a specific vertical location, and it will always be this far above the hello world label or this far above the center of the screen. So that's sort of how it works. Now what I can also do is I can drag it again, and I can do horizontal spacing. So this now will space it horizontally. And one thing I can also do is I can constrain the width and the height if I really wanted to, or I can select two. I can add constraints for equal widths, or I can add constraints for the aspect ratio. And I think the aspect ratios are generally clear for how this works. And hello world, let's say I also want to always have a width and a height like this. And as you can see, I can select all, and for the most part, aside from a little things that are missing here, it's going, you know, to be pretty clear. And just for the sake of doing this, I'm just going to run it. You know, we can change it around. Okay. So doesn't quite look aligned. It might verticals. So I'm just going to also add the center X, which will center the two X's. Sorry about that. Perfect. So as you can see now, you know, it rotates. It's always in the right spot. And that's how it works. And then the button is clickable, and the text, you know, and so on. So that's how auto layout works on the iPhone and iOS devices. And that sort of is going to conclude part 2 of our tutorial. There is going to be a part 3, and that's going to be where we're first going to start typing code and connecting it to what we see on screen here. So thank you for watching. Make sure to check out part 3 next in the Embed Code Swift tutorial series for the moving to iOS videos, and we'll see you next time.